Welcome to our training. We are super glad that you are here. So without further ado, Patty, I'm going to turn it over to you. But first, I'm going to let you know who our wonderful speaker is, Patty Shetter. She is the content lead for California in all things autism and works at the Mind Institute, which is at the UC Davis Center here in Sacramento. And does trainings and support up and down the state with colleagues. I believe there's a partnership with Marin County to do incredible work on areas and subject matters that we're going to be talking about today. So yes, everybody could stay. I see the chat. This training is for educators, it's for parents, it's for grandparents, it's for anybody that wants to show up. So please stick around for sure. With that, Patty, I'm going to turn it over to you and say thank you, and I'll monitor the chat. So if you have any questions, anybody, just go ahead and send my way. Welcome.
Thank you, Debbie. And thank you everyone for joining us today. I was thrilled to get the invitation to present to the CAC and to anyone interested in this topic. Debbie did a great job of introducing myself, but I wanted to start by telling you a little bit about the project that is making this training and all of these resources possible. So CAPTAIN is the California Autism Professional Training and Information Network. And we are a multi-agency network that is made up of members from the SELPAs, which you all just learned about, the Special Education Local Plan Areas, from our regional centers and our family resource and family empowerment centers from across the state. This network was formed in 2013 with a goal and vision of really helping to disseminate and share information about these evidence-based practices for students with autism and related needs, and to help people learn how to implement and use these strategies. Excuse me. We know that there's lots of really great things that, that work well for helping with behavior, with communication, with social interactions, with dealing with transitions like the one we're in now, that are based on research and that have been demonstrated to work. And so our goal for CAPTAIN is really to get them out to the masses, to people who need to use these in order to help benefit the lives of individuals with autism. We have many, many partners across California, and the Sacramento County SELPA has been a partner for a long time. The folks at Sacramento County SELPA have committed to identifying people within the SELPA to join CAPTAIN and learn about all these evidence-based practices so that they can go back into the school districts within Sacramento County and provide training and support to teachers and paraeducators and families on how to implement these. So I have a short video that I wanted to share with you about CAPTAIN and about evidence-based practices. And this video is actually on our website, which I'm going to pull up now. The CAPTAIN website is where all of these resources that I'm going to talk to you about today are housed. It's kind of the clearinghouse, we call it, for evidence-based practice and information for the state of California. And the video I want to show you is right here at the very bottom of the first page of the website. It's a video explaining what CAPTAIN is and what evidence-based practices are for families and family support providers. The CAPTAIN website, www.captain.ca.gov. And the very first page here is where all of the links to the resources I'm going to talk to you about are. So the video I'm going to share is right here at the very bottom. What is CAPTAIN? A video for family support providers. And with that, I'm going to cue up the video.
All parents want their children to reach their maximum potential. Children with autism account for 16% of the students with disabilities in the state of California. One way to help all children with disabilities succeed is to ensure that the interventions and services they receive have evidence proving their effectiveness. This video is an introduction to information and resources that will increase your ability to help families to recognize and advocate for the use of evidence-based practices, or EBPs, with their child. The California Autism Professional Training and Information Network, CAPTAIN, is a network of community, state, and federal agencies developed to support the understanding and use of evidence-based practices, or EBPs, for individuals affected by autism spectrum disorder and other developmental disabilities. Captain's website is an electronic resource for parents to access information on a wealth of topics, including interventions and supports, research, online training, fact sheets, infographics, and news about upcoming local events, and much more. Why is family participation important? Parent participation is enshrined in the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA. This is because research shows good student outcomes are linked with active involvement of parents and/or caregivers. This way of working together acknowledges that interventions and supports for children with disabilities are most successful when the family's concerns, priorities, cultures, and beliefs are considered. Barriers to family participation, such as time, money, emotional stressors, lack of information, and confidence, are frequently systemic and have significant consequences. How does understanding evidence-based practices benefit children and families? Families are the experts on their own children, and their participation in intervention planning is crucial. Knowledge is power, and informed parents are in the best position to advocate for the most effective treatment and supports for their child. However, identifying effective interventions can be challenging. Interventions may be recommended when there is no scientifically sound research that supports their use. Being a trusted resource for information is the goal of Captain. Family support professionals can help families by conducting informational sessions to encourage use of the Captain website, conducting trainings on EBPs to increase parent knowledge of specific interventions, and encouraging families to identify and share their preferences and values in the decision-making process. Visit the Captain website to access information about interventions, treatments, or other services for which there is scientifically based research that demonstrates effectiveness. Find out which practices rely on rigorous, systematic, and objective procedures which deliver reliable intervention and activities. Some materials are available in additional languages.
So as the video shared, we really at Captain and with all of our partners understand and recognize the critical role that families and parents play in the successful education of their children. So we've really made it a priority to try to develop trainings like this and resources like the ones on our website to help inform families. So again, I'm really appreciative that you invited me here to your CAC, which is sort of your outreach to your families in your community. Debbie at the Sacramento County SELPA has identified two people from your districts to be part of our training cadre. There are Captain Cadre members, Christina Block from Robla and Jenny Kolb from Galt, are both people that have participated in Captain and are available at a local level to provide training, support, and resources to educators and families throughout your SELPA. In addition, in your area, Alta California Regional Center is a very active partner of ours. And so if you ever have any needs, questions, or concerns related to regional center evidence-based practices that you might be able to access through your health insurance, the two people that are part of our team are Amy McCreary and Aaron Sterling. They are behavior analysts with Alta California Regional Center, and I wanted to make sure you had their contact information as well. So, evidence-based practice for autism. Why do we choose to focus on this? Well, I'm sure if you're anything like me, that whenever you have a question about anything, your go-to resource is probably Google. But if you go to Google and you actually type in autism treatments, how many hits do you think that you would get on Google? Any guesses? You can type them in the chat if you want to. How many say over 1,000? Hundreds, Jackie thinks. 14 million, Abby thinks. So I did this recently, and here is what I came up with. Yeah, that number's so big, I don't even think I can say it right. But when you type that in, you get so much information and so many possibilities that it's almost impossible to figure out which ones of these are actually viable, which ones of these actually work, which ones of these are actually supported by the medical community and the educational community and research. So many treatments for autism and so many claims out there about what these treatments can do or should do or will do. It can be really overwhelming and really confusing. So what Captain is all about and what I'm going to share with you today are evidence-based practices. And what I mean by that are interventions or practices for which there have been scientific studies done demonstrating that they work. And these studies are done in a highly controlled way where we're trying to determine if it's the treatment that's working or something else. And they're done in a way to demonstrate that it's actually the intervention or strategy that's resulting in the change. And lucky for us, we have a group in our nation at the University of North Carolina who keeps a really good eye out and really good tabs on what the research is telling us about autism interventions. The National Center for Autism Evidence and Practice, the National Clearinghouse for Autism Evidence and Practice is a group that has taken it as their mission to really keep us updated and informed on what these practices are. And their most recent findings show us that there are 28 individual strategies or practices that can be used educationally and by families to help with things like behavior and communication and social interactions and transition and vocational training. All of those areas that you guys identify and target on the IEP, there are 28 different practices that the research supports can work. They also identified that there's some things that are out there that people commonly use that really don't have any research supporting them, or they have a couple studies, but not really enough for us to know if they are truly working. And we need more studies to be able to prove that. So I provided those for you guys here. We're gonna focus on a few of these today around a very specific topic, and that's some strategies that you guys can use to help kids transitioning back to in-person learning, which I know is starting to happen and in a lot of places has been happening for a little while. I want to point out a resource before I move into that I think you guys will find really, really helpful, and you can get there directly from the Captain website. All of these practices we're going to talk about today, there's a free online learning module through Affirm, the Autism Focused Intervention Resource modules. So you can go and learn about it. You can share these resources with your child's teacher, with family members to learn about these practices. And one of the great things about these Affirm modules is that they have a section just for parents. They call it Parent Guides. So if you want to just kind of get down to, okay, what can I as a parent do to use visual supports? You can go to the parent guide for that particular evidence-based practice, and it's going to give you some things that, that are specifically designed for you to use. The other thing that I would encourage you guys to go on the website and play with a little bit is this tool called the Evidence-Based Practice Database. It's an awesome way for you to figure out what practices work for your individual child or student's needs. So let's say you have an 8-year-old with communication challenges and you want to find out which of those 28 practices can work. This guides you through that. You type in the information, 8-year-old communication, and it's going to show you exactly which of those 28 practices can work for that age group and for that particular area that you're wanting to address and work on. So now on to the important part. Captain, and through our work with the Marin County SELPA, have developed and kind of curated and pulled together some really important resources for supporting students with autism who are returning to in-person learning. And the place that we've put those all for easy access is on this Padlet, which if you don't know what a Padlet is, it's kind of like a website. It looks like this, and you guys all have the link. So if you want to click on the link that Debbie sent you, you can kind of look around while I'm talking to you about it. I'm actually going to take you to the Padlet, and we're going to look at some of the resources that are there, and we're going to talk about how you might be able to use them either with your own child, or if you're an educator, how you might be able to use them in your classroom or share them with your families to be able to use. But this
hand raised, and I'm gonna, is it Abby? Abby?
Yeah, hi, this is Abby. So I just put it in the chat. So the EBP database in AFIRM. That's wonderful. But I was wondering if, Patricia, you'd be able to actually show that, how it's done and how it comes up,
Yeah.
because that's really helpful, the matrix and the, yep.
I
Thank you.
absolutely can do that. Let me go to the Captain website. The wonderful thing about the website is that it has all of the links to all these resources built in. So here on the Captain website, if you go to Affirm, this will take you to those learning modules. And the National Clearinghouse on Autism Evidence and Practices is what we're talking about for the database. So I clicked on that. And when you go to this website, here's the report that outlines all of those evidence-based practices. So here's the database. And once you find it, which might take you a second, basically, here's where you go to type in the age. So let's say that I have a 12-year-old that I am working with, and they have challenges, and we are going to be writing some IEP goals, and I want to know how to work on some challenging or interfering behaviors. I click there and hit apply. And that shows me all of the different strategies that can be used for that particular age group, all of the different research for that particular age group that can be used for challenging behaviors. I could go to communication for earlier ages and apply, and it's going to take me to all of the research for that particular age group as well. Okay, another really good resource if you're interested in trying to identify which evidence-based practice for which age group that we find incredibly helpful is here on the Captain website. If you go to Captain Resources, the very first resource at the top is called a matrix of EBPs. And I'll open that up and quickly show you how to use that. So what we have here are the different domains that you might be wanting to address, or the different areas that you have IEP goals for. Right below that is the age group. So 0 to 5, 6 to 14, 15 to 22. And then on the left-hand side are the initials of the evidence-based practice that's been found to work for that. So let's say that I have a 14-year-old who has challenges with school readiness, attending behaviors. I can look over here, and anything highlighted in blue is an evidence-based practice that's been shown to work for that particular area. So now I want to know, well, what is ABI? What does that stand for? So if I go back over here, we've got the definitions for ABI. It's antecedent-based interventions, and a brief definition of what that means. So now let's say I want to learn how to implement this intervention, or I want to learn more about it. Then I just go to the Affirm modules, click on the Affirm modules, and look at the module on antecedent-based interventions. So it's a way of being able to identify which practices work on which skills for each age group, and then learning more about those practices so that they can be implemented really well. But today, I would like to show you what some of those are for transitioning back to in-person instruction. So I've opened up the Padlet here, and one of the very first resources that we encourage people to look at is this returning to school guidance document. What we've done on this document is basically identified ways that as a parent you can prepare your child, as a parent, the ways that you can prepare yourself, things that you can do, ways that you can collaborate with your educational team, and things that a teacher could do to be able to prepare the classroom. So if I can go back to the PowerPoint, that's what the Padlet looks like. And just so you know, we have it in both English and Spanish. And my colleague Maribel is going to be doing a presentation, I believe, tomorrow for your CAC in Spanish language. So if you have families that you know or that you're working with who could benefit from this information in Spanish, the CAC is going to be hosting that webinar like this tomorrow and going over all the resources on the Spanish language Padlet as well. So back to where I was. So let's start by talking about some of the strategies for preparing your child. If you're a parent or caregiver, if you're an educator and you have families contacting you and they want to know, what can I do to help prepare my child to return to in-person instruction? These are some strategies that can be done pretty easily. And then I have some resources that go along with some of these strategies. The first thing is to begin talking about returning to school and do some advanced preparation. I think we all do better when we sort of know what's coming. And so preparing a child in advance is really important. And for a lot of children, you know, talking about it might not be enough. Actually going on a visit to the school site, if it's a brand new school site, really important because they don't even have a memory or recollection of it. But if you're returning to the same school site that your child was at before the pandemic, you know, taking them there and going for a walk around campus, kind of revisiting school and taking them to the playground or a place where they have some nice positive memories and can remember all of the great things about school. Taking photos can also be a really nice way of doing some of that advanced preparation. And parents can work with their teachers, or if I have educators or teachers on the webinar today, taking pictures and sending them to families, what the classroom's gonna look like. I mean, there's gonna be some changes, right? We have some different safety protocols in place now that make the actual school and classroom look a little bit different. So showing kids what those differences are going to be in advance to prepare them is a great strategy. If you have the ability to, even taking some video and showing, you know, like a campus tour or a classroom tour, or when you take your child on the visit, if you can videotape on your phone or whatever device you might have, you know, some of the safety protocols and procedures that you see, like the hand washing visuals or the arrows on the sidewalk, capturing those and reviewing those pretty frequently and regularly can be a really helpful strategy for preparation. And then one other technique that is an evidence-based practice is something called a social narrative. And I want to take you to back to the website, back to the Padlet now, and show you the different social narratives that we've put on the Padlet that you might find really helpful. So if you look under supports for students, there are several different social stories or social narratives here. The first one is a story about safety procedures at my school. So I'm going to click on that and kind of walk you through what this looks like. So this is a story about safety procedures at my school. My community has COVID-19 safety procedures and rules. One rule is that everyone in school wears a mask. The mask helps keep me and other people safe. This one, in my community, in some stores, there are arrows on the floor that help people move safely. At my school, there will be yellow arrows on the ground to help me move safely. Of course, if your school has different colored arrows, you would want to make this story specific to the safety procedures at your school. In stores and other businesses in my community, sometimes there are social distancing markers on the floor. The markers show people where to stand. At my school, there will be red social distancing markers on the ground telling me where to stand. So one of the important things about social narratives and social stories is they're written in a really specific way that help draw on a child's prior knowledge and experience and help to explain to them new expectations or the expectations in a new environment. So this story that was written by one of our Captain Cadre goes through and does that and explains the different safety procedures that are put in place at their specific school. This is an example. It's really easy to create one of these social narratives with pictures either from the internet or pictures that you take yourself, and you can just use PowerPoint, or you can download the ones that we have pre-made for you here and adapt and use those. Some others that I wanted to point out for you. There's a social story about COVID-19, and this particular one is I Can Help, and it walks through what kids can do to help protect themselves and others from COVID-19. The next one I wanted to actually walk through with you is a great way of being able to help prepare kids for returning to school. It's a little storybook about the people that they'll be encountering and working with when they get back to school. So on the first page, it says, my teacher, this is my teacher, her name is, and then a place for that to be filled in. She will help me in my classroom. She will help me learn to read and write. She will also help me with math. I can always ask whoever the teacher is for help. And then of course, individualizing this with a picture of your student's teacher is a great way to make it really meaningful to them. And it goes through and introduces all of the different service providers or people that your child might be meeting and working with in the school setting. I'll be uploading it. It'll probably be right here under the guide. Additional strategies and things that, that you can think about for preparing your child. Taking opportunities to practice the health and safety guidelines, things like wearing masks and social distancing and following arrows, hand washing, sanitizing. I know we've all been doing this, but being really intentional when you're doing it about labeling it and pointing it out when you're out in the community so that they have an easier time generalizing what's been going on to the school setting when they eventually do return. Begin working on bedtime routines and morning routines that can carry over to the days that school does take place. Talk about and practice any calming strategies that have worked, such as deep breathing, listening to music, etc. There can be a lot of anxiety and a lot of excitement around returning to school. And so really rehearsing and practicing and making sure that those strategies that you've established for bringing calm when there's a lot of excitement going on are right there in the tool belt. And talk about and practice help-seeking routines or help-seeking scripts. And again, this is because they may have become really comfortable and confident doing it at home with you over the last several months, but generalizing that back into the classroom may be something that is a bit challenging. So I wanted to show you a couple of resources to support some of these things. On the preparation strategies for families, we have some really great resources for helping the child with mask wearing. And I know that based on my conversations with a lot of districts who have already resumed school, this is one of the biggest challenges that they're encountering with students is keeping the mask on in the classroom. And this can actually be a goal that you're working on. And these strategies that are outlined here in these two resources can be incredibly helpful. The Parent's Guide for helping with mask wearing has some incredibly practical ideas for supporting mask wearing. And you know, one of the things to consider, especially for students with autism or other significant needs, is it could be a sensory thing. It might not be that they're just refusing to wear it for the sake of refusing to wear it. It could be that it's really uncomfortable for them, and their sensory issues may contribute to that. So finding and experimenting with different types of masks is one thing that I always advise people to do. They might be more comfortable with the neck gaiter and pulling it up over their face than with something that goes behind their ears. They may be more comfortable with something that actually ties in the back than something that straps around their ears. The different materials or fabrics, paper might be more comfortable than cloth, or cloth might be more comfortable than paper. Silk masks are you know, really soft and feel really light in terms of weight. And that might be something that that could help with the tolerance and some of the sensory issues around mask wearing. Kids really like when they feel like they have some influence and choice. And so giving them a choice, if you have two different color masks, which mask do you want to wear today? If you have one that has their favorite character on it or some sort of a theme that they're really into, that can help a lot. And even letting them decorate their own mask, draw a picture on it, or put stickers on the outside of the mask that are their favorite cartoon character or their favorite superhero. Those are all things that can be really helpful. The other thing that that can work really well, and we have lots of resources around this, is working systematically in really, really small increments to increase mask tolerance. And so what that would look like is, you would ask your child to put their mask on, show them a timer for a really small amount of time. And when they keep the mask on for that small amount of time, they take it off and they earn some kind of reinforcer or some sort of reward. And that time can be systematically increased as you continue to practice. We have a mask wearing token system. That's a really easy thing to just download and print and use. You can make your own. It could be, anything you wanted it to be. It could be tallies on a Post-it note if that works for your child. But on this example, you see that they're going to be earning basically time for a break from wearing their mask. So every 5 minutes that they wear it, at the end of that time, then the mask gets to come off and they get to go outside or on the iPad or whatever the reward is that's being set up. These kinds of token systems or visual systems can be really helpful in sort of delaying or helping the child develop a tolerance for working towards not having to wear the mask any longer or working towards a reward. These are examples of punch cards. So for every interval that the child wears the mask, you can either cross it out or use a hole punch or put a sticker over the face mask so that they can see that they're working towards earning that reward. You start where your child's at or where your student's at and build from there. The expectation of a child to wear a mask for a 30-minute interval when they'll barely keep it on for 30 seconds is unrealistic. And so the goal would be 30 seconds, earn a reward, 35 seconds, earn a reward. The next time, maybe a minute, and then earn a reward, and work on systematically shaping the amount of time that the child will wear or tolerate the mask. For calming routines, we also have some really great things here that if you haven't ever worked on a calming routine, these are some really nice sort of entry-level, easy ways to practice calming. For this one right here, it's turn page until calm. So the child holds the sheet in front of them and you could practice with them counting to 10. They then turn the page. And if I were to turn this, you would see that the next step is breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And then rotate the page, count to 10, and then rotate the page. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. So this is a concrete and tangible way to establish some routine that helps them to be able to do these behaviors like counting and deep breathing that we know can be really calming and regulating. So this is one example of a calming routine that can be practiced and carried over and generalized from the school to home or from the home into school. We have a couple of different calming routines and strategies outlined on the Padlet for you all. Let me pause there and see if there are any questions about strategies for preparing the child.
Patty, I don't see any hands raised. I've asked people to put their name in the chat just for a sign in, so I'm sorry if that's distracting.
No, that's not distracting at all. It's great. Okay, so strategies for preparing yourself. I know for myself as a parent, you know, it feels like we have ample time to sort of gear up at the beginning of the school year. We know it's coming, and, you know, we have our little routines of, you know, starting to get the kids to bed a little bit earlier each night, and going school shopping and buying a new backpack and all of that. But preparing ourselves is a really important part of this, because it's been a year and we've established new routines. And now we have to reestablish some additional or different routines for returning back to school. So preparing ourselves is a really, really important thing to think about. So some of the things that you can do to prepare yourself as a parent is to begin gathering information about the school and the schedule and things like transportation and the health and safety guidelines and procedures. What are those going to be? And one of the strategies that we have that I'm going to show you that can be really helpful for kind of consolidating all of this information in one place is something called a new school checklist. And this wasn't designed for COVID. This was actually designed to help when you're transitioning from one school to another, like when you're transitioning from elementary to middle school or middle school to high school. But we found it can be a really helpful tool to use to sort of organize all of this information about this school year. And, you know, this school year is not a typical school year. I know that in some districts, including my own child's district, they started out with having in-person instruction 2 days a week and online learning 2 different days a week. And the days they were in school, it was in the morning, and the days they were working on distance learning, it was in the afternoon. So to keep track of that was a lot. And so trying to keep it all up here can be really challenging. So having a place to be able to record all of that is incredibly helpful. And I know the schools are doing a good job of pushing that information out in various ways, trying to reach all families. But having it all in one place can, again, be really helpful. The other thing that we advise families to do is to really review their child's IEP and or 504 plan so that you're aware of what the goals, services, supports are. And if you feel like things have changed, if you've encountered or identified some new things, or if they've mastered some of the goals, it's really important to communicate with the educational team and with the teacher. And once your child has transitioned back and kind of established themselves and adapted and adjusted to the school routine again, might be a good time to request an IEP meeting to review goals and supports and needs and services, because they may have changed over this last year. So the IEP that was developed a year ago may need to be updated and adjusted accordingly. Remember to prioritize health and safety and social emotional well-being, especially during the transition period. I know a lot of people are really concerned about learning loss, and like, we can't start addressing this soon enough. However, there's going to be a period of adjustment, and social emotional well-being, health and safety have to continue to be the foremost concerns and the foremost things that we're really focused on. So things like following the safety protocols, learning how to be a student in school during this tail end of the pandemic, what that looks like, what that means, staying calm, understanding how to remain safe. Those are all really important things. And then reconnecting with their peers, reconnecting with their teachers, with their service providers, and getting back in on a really positive note, rather than immediately starting with high-level demands. I mean, nobody wants to do that, right? Thinking about going back into the office. I haven't been in my office in a year. I don't want to go back in and have 50,000 things coming at me. I want to be able to transition and get used to that new daily routine and interacting with people in person in a pandemic a little bit before, really hitting some really difficult things. So something to keep in mind with our kids as well, and really prioritizing their health and safety and social emotional well-being. So let me go to the Padlet then and show you where some of these things are. The new school checklist is under preparation strategies for families. So if you go down, I think it's the third resource on the support for families, in the support for families section. And it's just a template that can be printed out where different team members' names and contact information can be written. Other important information like school attendance, busing, transportation, how to contact the nurse if you have concerns about anything related to health and safety. It has a variety of different things that, that could be really helpful. You could attach the school's health and safety protocols to that as well. So you have those and know what those are. Let's see here. We have a video that you might find really helpful, transitioning to school visual supports. And the visual supports that you see illustrated in this video are actually available on the Padlet as well. So as well as all of the health and safety protocol icons, those are all here as well. One other resource in preparation for families that I wanted to share is something called a student snapshot. Now, of course, the teachers are going to be reading and referencing the IEP for your child. But, you know, like I said, sometimes things change and there could be some new things that have gone on with your child that you want to make sure that the school team really knows about. So this student snapshot is a one-page, front and back, way of summarizing the really important information that you might want the team to know about your child. What are their likes and interests? What are they motivated by? What things do they find easy to do? What things might they struggle with? And what can help if they're encountering one of those situations? So maybe they might struggle with wearing the mask, and the thing that helps is using a timer and the token system. If you've discovered what some of those things are, sharing those with the classroom staff can be incredibly helpful. How does your child communicate? How do they like to be communicated with? If you've come up with some key terms that helps to prompt your child about some of the health and safety guidelines, like personal space, you know, if you use the term 6 feet, or if you use the term, you know, bubble, whatever that term is, whatever has worked for you, helping your educational team know what that is can be really important. If there's any behavior challenges that your child's been exhibiting or that you anticipate they might exhibit, this is a place to be able to kind of outline those. Sometimes I might, and these are the things that trigger me to do that. And the best way of helping me when I'm having that behavior is this. And then outlining what your goals are, or some of the things that you would really like to see for your child during these next couple months as they transition back to school, and any health concerns that you have for your child. There's a place to be able to record that as well. IEPs are amazing. They have tons of information. They have lots of things that are legally required, but the research has really supported that a tool like this little snapshot, can really help to provide meaningful, quick information, and especially during this time of transition, in a way that could be really helpful for members of your educational team to have from you. Any questions about those resources for families preparing yourself? All right, so a couple more about collaboration, then I have a few things for the educators on the call, or for you guys to share with your child's teacher. Collaboration, I think we've all learned a really important lesson this last year about the critical nature of collaboration. And I'm really hoping this is one of the positives, one of the silver linings that come out of this whole pandemic, is that this communication and this collaboration between families and educators, that it sustains, because it really has been the most important thing in terms of helping to support our students. And it's going to be just as important now when we're transitioning in the other direction back into school as it was when we transitioned into the virtual environment. So schedule a parent-teacher conference to discuss the new school routines, your child's needs, and supports that will need to be put in place. You have learned so much about what's working for your child this last year. Sharing that information is golden. Complete that student snapshot. Develop any needed visual support, such as choice boards, visual schedules, token boards, social narratives, or visual cues that can remind the student of health and safety expectations and new routines. And parents, you can call on your educational team to help you develop these. Speech and language therapists have tons of access to things like Boardmaker and other visual supports that they can create and send home to you or help during that transition on transportation. So reach out and communicate to your teachers and ask for what you need. Developing those social narratives, social stories, like I showed you, work with and collaborate with your team on those as well, because they're going to help you as a parent as well as the teacher in the school setting when the child arrives. And then for our educators, we just want to remind teachers to prepare the classroom, get things ready, and there are some key evidence-based practices that we know are sort of foundational that really need to be in place for students with autism to feel comfortable, safe, and succeed in the classroom. And those three are antecedent-based interventions, visual supports, and reinforcement systems. So just encouraging the classroom teachers to really think about getting those communication strategies and those visual supports in place before the kids show up, so everything's ready to roll and you're ready to support the kiddos. And one thing that can be incredibly helpful for school staff, teachers are going to look different than they did on Zoom. So if the child established a relationship with the teacher on Zoom and now they're seeing this person in person and they look like this, they've got a face guard and a mask and all of these things, they might not even recognize that teacher. Maybe they've done online speech therapy or been working with the OT with some parent facilitation, but they see that person and they look like this, they're not going to know who they are. So photo buttons we're finding is a really awesome way to help the child sort of recognize and understand, oh, okay, that's my teacher, the one that I've met and worked with and know from Zoom. I recognize that face on the button, and it's the same person that's behind that mask. So this is a really easy way of being able to help kids, just feel comfortable and recognize and know the people that they've gotten to know in this two-dimensional world that we've been living in. And then keychain rules is a evidence-based practices type of visual support. But we're seeing that these are really essential and super handy. And believe you me, these work with all kids. They're going to need a lot of reminders. They're going to need a lot of prompts about those health and safety rules. And a lot of kids, verbal information isn't exactly what's going to stick for them. So having them made visual and having visual supports and resources to prompt and remind kids about the new rules and the new safety procedures is really important. And so we've been encouraging people to make these little keychains that they can carry around with them, maybe on a lanyard on their belt, or just have on a little flip grid, flip chart that have all the reminders of the safety rules. So if you see a child that maybe took their mask off and you need to prompt them to put their mask on, showing them the picture, the visual support of mask on, that can be a lot less intrusive and create a lot less kind of turmoil or conflict than somebody giving a verbal reminder or a physical prompt. So these are a really simple way to be able to establish some visual structure and visual rules around those new safety guidelines and safety strategies. So I want to thank you all for being here today, for listening, and for letting me come to share these resources with you. They all are on that Padlet, that link that Debbie sent you. You can also get there through the Captain website. It's at the very top of the first page. The English version is at the top, and right below that is the Spanish version. On the website, we also have the original Padlet, which is the link to all the resources for distance learning. So if you're continuing to participate in distance learning, there's a ton of resources there as well. And don't forget that all of the links to all these resources about evidence-based practices are there. The online learning modules, like the Affirm modules, are free for anyone to use. All you have to do is just register for an account, and they're there for you. And if you have any needs, any questions, I'm happy to share my contact information, and happy to provide any support or resources that you need as you make this transition back to in-person learning.
Thank you so much. I can't help but listen to you every single time I learn something new. There is a Spanish version of this. Maribel, are you still on here, Maribel?
Yes, I'm here.
There
That
she
will
is.
be tomorrow, same time.
Yes, yes. And so we're happy to present that. Thanks for doing that, Maribel.
And please share these resources with anyone that you know that might benefit. We really appreciate the help with disseminating.